Hello and welcome, friends. I'm Lady Balefire, and today I am doing my first solo stream, so this should be pretty interesting. I know the time is a little bit weird, so I just wanted to welcome anyone that is watching in the rerun, and thank you for being here. I know I'm hoping my mom is watching actually. If you're out there, mom, hello. I can see my boyfriend's here, and if anyone joins us later, welcome and have Merry Christmas. I wanted to do this stream a little bit later. However, it is the solstice today, the winter solstice, and I am definitely a pagan that likes to celebrate the solstice and celebrate the changing of the season. So I'm going to be a little bit busy tonight, and so I wanted to get something started in the afternoon, and there's a lot of other great streams going on tonight too. So the reason I wanted to bring you guys here is I wanted to show you this really awesome book that was written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it is called Letters from Father Christmas. Now I'm gonna just be I have a weird camera set up so I can show you the illustrations because it's really awesome, and the story is really cool. I actually found this book when I was out with Barnes and Noble with my boyfriend. We were looking for Wheel of Time books, and then I was looking at in the like Tolkien section and looking for a copy of the Silmarillion, and I couldn't really find like a nice one for my book club, and I ended up getting a used copy. And then I found this book, and I'm like, what is this? I was looking at it, it looked really cool, and I'm just like, yeah, let's check it out. So, oh look, there's people here. Hey Feanor, hey Lord Boss, nice to see you guys. And I just like the way that I have set up. I can't really like respond to anyone at chat, and I'll just say hi as I see you. But yeah, so I found this book, and I'm like, what is this, Father Christmas? Like, I don't even know. And so I started looking at it, and I just found it's really beautiful. And one of the things that made me want to do this stream is that I'm experiencing my first Christmas away from home, where I am so far removed from my home that I can't see any of my family. And I really just want to do something kind of special. And this book kind of reminded me of something. It reminded me of my mom a lot. And my mom is an amazing person. She is a voracious reader, though we certainly do not read the same things. She likes fantasy, but she likes the kind of supernatural werewolves and vampire fantasy, though for a long time she didn't think that was fantasy, and we used to argue about whether it was or not. So but before that, when I was a kid, she used to pack my lunch for school every day, and she used to write me messages on like little stories and stuff on my napkins and on the paper bags that she would put my lunch in, and it really just reminded me of this book. So the story behind this book is that as Tolkien's children were born, he would write them letters as Father Christmas, and he really created this whole host of characters, and he would include the his children as they were born. And it started when his first child was 3. And I'm just going to open this book and start showing you some of these awesome pictures. And I just thought it's so imaginative, and we really just know Tolkien as like Lord of the Rings, high fantasy, and sometimes we forget that he was also like a dad and a very loving father too. And this really kind of shows a different side of Tolkien. But here's some of the illustrations. These are some of he would put the letters like in the mail and leave them for his kids and stuff to find. And like some of these illustrations are just so cool. And I mean, if you've seen some of the illustrated stuff, like I know on our book club and stuff, like Feanor and Gadfly and Nathan have been showing me like the really awesome copies of the Silmarillion and stuff. And Tolkien was also an amazing illustrator, and I just really like some of these stuff that he did in here, and I wanted to share that with people. And to give you some more information, so the first of the Father Christmas letters came out in 1920 when his first son John was 3, and they did it for over 20 years, and through the childhood of the rest of his children, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla. And this book was actually put together by who was the editor? Let me see. I wrote this down because this is pretty interesting. Baillie Tolkien, and Baillie Tolkien is an interesting character. because she was the second wife of Christopher Tolkien, and her maiden name is actually super similar to my last name. And she's actually born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is where my dad's family is, where my dad was, close to where my dad was born. So it's like, he is from a very small, like kind of community of like religious people that, and they all kind of have the same last name. So I was very like, oh my gosh, could I possibly be like vaguely somehow related to like Christopher Tolkien? That would be kind of cool. But I thought that was really funny, so I was laughing at that today. But let's get on to it. I'll just read some of the better ones, and like some of them more, but some of them are short. If you guys have questions or you want to see something, I'll try to watch in the chat and see if I can respond to you. And hopefully we do not have any incursions from George, but he does like to jump on the table. So I'm gonna just start reading. And this is the first one, and this is the illustration I got for the cover. So I'm just gonna show it to you. It's like really awesome, like Father Christmas. And I love how he draws the North Pole. Like, it's really cool. And this was the first one. Christmas House, North Pole, 22nd December, 1920. Dear John, I heard you ask Daddy what I was like and where I lived. I have drawn me and my house for you. Take care of the picture. I am just off now for Oxford with my bundle of toys. Some for you. Hope I shall arrive in time. The snow is very thick at the North Pole tonight. Your loving Father Christmas. And then we have 1923, and I love how he draws too. It's so imaginative, and yeah, it really reminds me of my mom's drawings too, like just her notes on the napkins. They were so sweet, and yeah, kind of having flashbacks here, getting emotional. Okay, 1923. My dear John, it is very cold today, and my hand is very shaky. I am 1924. No, 7 years old on Christmas Day. Lots older than your great grandfather, so I can't stop the pen wobbling. But I hear that you are getting so good at reading that I expect you will be able to read my letter. I send you lots of love, and lots for Michael too, and lots bricks too, which are called that because they are lots more fun for you to have next year if you let me know in good time. I think they are prettier and stronger and tidier than pick-a-bricks, so I hope you will like them. Now I must go. It is a lovely fine night, and I have got hundreds of miles to go before morning. There is such a lot to do. A cold kiss from Father Nicholas Christmas. And then here's a picture of like one of the little envelopes he made. I just think that's so pretty. I really love how he draws like the North Pole, and it's like it's a combination of like the auroras and firecrackers, as we'll find out. And it's just really pretty. I love it so much. So, oh, I'm gonna just skip ahead and read this one because it introduces the polar bear. Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Christmas, 1925. My dear boys, I am dreadfully busy this year. It makes my hand more shaky than ever when I think of it, and not very rich. In fact, awful things have been happening, and some of the presents have got spoiled, and I haven't got the North Polar Bear to help me, and I have had to move house just before Christmas. So you can imagine what a state everything is in, and you will see why I have a new address, and why I can only write one letter between you both. It all happened like this. One very windy day last November, my hood blew off and went stuck in the top of the North Pole. I told him not to, but the North Polar Bear climbed to the thin top to get it down, and he did. The pole broke in the middle and he fell on the roof of my house, and the North Polar Bear fell through the hole it made into the dining room with my hood over his nose, and all the snow fell onto the roof of the house and melted and put out all of the fires and ran down into the cellars where I was collecting this year's presents, and the North Polar Bear's leg got broken. He is well again now, but I was so cross with him that he says he won't try to help me again. I expect his temper is hurt and will be mended by next Christmas. I send you a picture of the accident and of my new house in the cliffs above the North Pole, with beautiful cellars in the cliffs. If John can't read this, my old shaky writing, 1,925 years old, he must get his father to. When is Michael going to learn to read and write his own letters to me? Lots of love for you both and Christopher, whose name is rather like mine. That's all. Goodbye, Father Christmas. P.S. Father Christmas was in a great hurry, told me to put in one of his magic wishing crackers. As you wish. As you pull, wish, and see if it doesn't come true. Excuse the writing. I have a fat paw. I can't help Father Christmas with his packing. I live with him. I am the great polar bear. I like the polar bear character a lot. He's really funny, but it's cute how he writes it differently. And he like puts this thing. So here's what happened. Here's the moon, and here's the polar bear falling off the pole at the North Pole, and here's his new house. It's like I just this is so cute. I love it. It's so sweet. All right. Cliff House, top of the world near the North Pole, Monday, December 20th, 1926. My dear boys, I am more shaky than usual this year. The North Polar Bear's fault. It was the biggest bang in the world and the most monstrous firework there has ever been. It turned the North Pole black and shook all the stars out of place, broke the moon into four, and the man in it fell into my back garden. He ate quite a lot of my Christmas chocolates before he said he felt better and climbed back to mend it and get the stars tidy. Then I found out that the reindeer had broken loose. They were running all over the country, breaking reins and ropes and tossing presents up in the air. They were all packed up to start, you see. Yes, it only happened in the morning. It was a sleigh load of chocolate things, which I always send to England early. I hope yours are not badly damaged. But isn't the North Polar Bear silly? And isn't he a bit sorry? Of course he did it. You remember I had to move last year because of him. The tap for turning on the Rory Borealis fireworks is still in the cellar of my old house. The North Polar Bear knew he must never, never touch it. I only let it off on special days like Christmas. He says he thought it was cut off since we moved. Anyway, he was nosing around the ruins this morning, and soon after breakfast, he had things to eat there, and turned all of the northern lights for 2 years on in one go. You have never heard or seen anything like it. I have tried to draw a picture of it, but I am too shaky to do it properly, and you can't paint fizzy light, can you? I think the polar bear has spoiled the picture rather. Of course he can't draw with those great fat paws. Rude! I can, and I write without shaking. By going and putting a lot of his own about me chasing the reindeer and him laughing. He did laugh too. So did I when I saw him trying to drive reindeer and inking his nice white paws. Father Christmas had to hurry away and leave me to finish. He is old and gets worried when funny things happen. You would have laughed too. I think it is good of me laughing. It was a lovely firework. The reindeer will run quick to England this year. They are still frightened. I must go and help pack. I don't know what Father Christmas would do without me. He always forgets what a lot of packing I do for him. The snowman is addressing our envelopes this year. He is Father Christmas's gardener. But we don't get much but snowdrops and frost ferns to grow here. He is always bright and white, just with his finger. Merry Christmas to you from the North Polar Bear, and love from Father Christmas to you all. I love this. Look at the little drawing down here. It's so cute. Ah, a little big. And then this is so pretty. Like, look at this. It's like I love how he sees the aurora borealis as like fireworks too. And there he is running out, and then the illustration down there. It's so pretty. I just love his imagination too, and the kind of thought that he put in doing something really nice for his kids. Like you reading like the Silmarillion and stuff, we're like, man, this stuff is like really dark sometimes, but it's so nice to remember that he had like a sense of humor and wonder and imagination too. This one's pretty cool too. This is like the North Pole. I love how he draws that. It really makes me think of like Numenor or something. Anyway, here we go. Cliff House, top of the world near the North Pole, Wednesday, December 21st, 1927. My dear people, there seem to get more and more of you every year. I get poorer and poorer. I still hope that I have managed to bring you all something you wanted, though not everything you asked for. Michael and Christopher, I haven't heard from John this year. I hope he is growing too big and won't even hang up his stocking soon. It has been so bitter at the North Pole lately that the North Polar Bear has spent most of his time asleep and has been less than use than usual this Christmas. Everybody does sleep most of the time here in winter, especially Father Christmas. The North Pole became colder than any cold thing has ever been, and when the North Polar Bear put his nose against it, it took the skin off. Now it is bandaged with red flannel. Why did he? I don't know, but he's always putting his nose where it oughtn't to be. Into my cupboards, for instance. That's because I was hungry. Also, it has been very dark here since winter began. We haven't seen the sun, of course, for 3 months, but there are no northern lights this year. You remember the awful accident last year? There will be none again until the end of 1928. The North Polar Bear has got his cousin and distant friend, the Great Bear, to shine extra bright for us, and this week I have hired a comet to do my packing by, but it doesn't work well. The North Polar Bear has not really been any more sensible this year. I have been perfectly sensible, and have learned to write with a pen in my mouth instead of a paintbrush. Yesterday, he was snowballing the snowman in the garden and pushed him over the edge of the cliff so that he fell into my sleigh at the bottom and broke lots of things. One of them was himself. I used some of what was left of him to paint my white picture. We shall have to make ourselves a new gardener when we are less busy. The man in the moon paid me a visit the other day, a fortnight ago exactly. He often does this time, and he gets lonely in the moon, and we make him a nice little plum pudding. He is so fond of things with plums in. His fingers were cold as usual, and the North Polar Bear made him play snapdragons to warm them. Of course he burnt them, and when he licked them, and then he liked the brandy, and then the bear gave him lots more, and he went fast asleep on the sofa. Then I went down into the cellars to make crackers, and he rolled off the sofa, and the wicked bear pushed him underneath and forgot all about him. He can never be away a whole night from the moon, but he was this time. I have never expected to look after the man in the moon before. I was very nice to him, and he was very comfy under the sofa. Suddenly, the snowman, he wasn't broken then, rushed out into the garden next day after tea time and said the moon was going out. The dragons had come out and were making an awful smoke and smother. We rolled him out and shook him, and he simply whizzed back, but it was ages before he got things quite cleared up. I believe he has to let loose one of his simply terrified. Wait, this is so funny. I love this. I love how Tolkien makes up words. And if my mom's out there, you know the word madam. That is our favorite word. It came from the concerning hobbits, and it's such a great word. It means things of no particular use that you are unwilling to throw away. And long before I even read Lord of the Rings, I had read like a little bit of it because I had the big book, and I was like, this is a word that needs to be in our vocabulary, and we use it surprisingly frequently. But anyway, here's another example of one of the words he made up. I believe he had let loose one of his simply terrificalist freezing magics before he could drive the dragons back into their holes, and that is why it has got so cold down here. The polar bear only laughs when I tell him it's his fault, and he curls up in my hearthrug and won't do anything but snore. My messengers told me that you have somebody from Iceland staying with you. That is not so far from where I live, and nearly as cold. People don't hang up stockings there, and I usually pass by in a hurry, though I sometimes pop down and leave a thing or two for their jolly Christmas trees. My usual way is down low, Norway, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, and then back through Germany, northern France, Belgium, and so into England. And on the way home, I pass over the sea and sometimes Iceland, and I can see the twinkling lights faint in the valleys under the mountains. But I go by quick as my reindeer gallop as hard as they can there. They always say that they are frightened a volcano or a geyser will go off underneath them. This must be all. I have written you a very long letter this year, as there is nothing to draw but dark and snow and stars. Love to you all, and happiness next year. Your loving Father Christmas. I love Tolkien's handwriting. I mean, that's so cool. I love how he writes differently. Oh, I should point out too that the polar bear stuff are basically like interjections that he writes in the margins, like the polar bear is writing to like tell them like that's not true. I really like the character of polar bear. He's funny. So it gets better with the polar bear. Top of the world, North Pole, Thursday, December 20th, 1928. My dear boys, another Christmas, and I am another year older, and so are you. I feel quite well, all the same. Very nice of Michael to ask, and not quite so shaky, but that is because we have got all the lighting and heating right again after the cold, dark year we had in 1927. Do you remember about it? And I expect you remember whose fault it was? What do you think the poor dear old bear has been and done this time? Nothing as bad as letting off all the lights, only fell from the top of the main stairs on Thursday. Who'd left the soap on the stairs? Not me. We were beginning to get the first lot of parcels down out of the storerooms into the hall. Polar Bear would insist on taking an enormous pile on his head as well as lots in his arms. Bang, rumble, clatter, crash, awful moanings and growlings. I ran out to the landing and saw he had fallen from the top onto his nose, leaving a trail of balls, bundles, parcels, and things all the way down. And he had fallen on top of some and smashed them. I hope you got none of these by accident. I have drawn you a picture of it all. Polar Bear was rather grumpy at me drawing it. Of course, naturally. He says my Christmas pictures always make fun of him, and that one year he will send one drawn by himself of me being idiotic. But of course I never am, and he can't draw well enough. Yes, I can. I drew the flag at the end. He joggled my arm and spoiled the little picture at the bottom of the moon laughing and Polar Bear shaking his fist at it. When he had picked himself up, he ran out of doors and wouldn't help clear up because I sat on the stairs and laughed as soon as I found there was not much damage done. That is why the moon smiled. But the part showing Polar Bear angry was cut off because he smudged it. But anyway, I thought you would like a picture of the inside of my new big house for a change. The chief hall is under the largest dome where we pile the presents usually ready to load on the sleighs at the doors. Polar Bear and I built it nearly all ourselves and laid out the blue and mauve tiles. The banisters and roof are not quite straight. Not my fault. Father Christmas did the banisters. But it really doesn't matter. I painted the pictures on the walls of the trees and stars and suns and moon. Then I said to Polar Bear, I shall leave the frieze, Frieze, to you. He said, I should have thought there was enough frieze outside, and your colors inside, all purpley, grayy, bluey, pale greeny, are cold enough too. I said, don't be a silly bear. Do your best. There's good old Polar. And what a result! Icicles around the hall to make a freeze. Freeze. He can't spell very well. And fearful bright color to make a warm freeze. Well, my dear, I hope you will like the things I am bringing. Nearly all you asked for, and lots of other things you didn't, and which I thought of at the last minute. I hope you will share the railway things and farm and animals often, and not think they are absolutely only for the one whose stocking they were in. Take care of them, for they are some of my very best things. Love to Chris. Love to Michael. Love to John, who must be getting very big as he doesn't write me anymore. So I simply had to guess paints. I hope that they were all right. Polar Bear chose them. He says he knows what John likes because John likes bears. Your loving Father Christmas, and my love, Polar Bear. So there's Polar Bear's flag there. I think one of the funnest things about the letters is that like you start to kind of realize that like personalities of his kids, and like you get like Christopher was really into it, and then like the oldest one Michael isn't so much, and I think that's really awesome. But here's the letter. So pretty. I love his handwriting. Yeah, I do love it, and I like reading it out loud too. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning. When I was a little kid, like my mom read to us constantly. Like she would like get all into it and do voices and stuff too. So I am planning. I hope when I have kids that I can read them this book and do the same kind of thing for them, because it's just so wonderful to have this and to get your like kids and your family involved with imaginative stuff. And that's something that I had when I was growing up. I mean, my dad wasn't much of a reader or something, but he was definitely the one that was going to be leading the adventures. And I would very much like love to do this. And I have done stuff like this for them before too. But definitely want to do it for my kids. This is a great illustration. Short letter. Boxing Day, 1928. I am frightfully sorry. I gave this to Polar Bear to post, and he forgot all about it. We found it on the table hall today. But you must forgive him. He has worked very hard for me and is dreadfully tired. We have a busy Christmas. Very windy here. It blew several sleighs over before they could start. Love again, Father Christmas. Oh, this was from the Polar Bear, and when he fell down the stairs. I mean, just look at the illustration. Like, it's so cool. There's so much whimsical thing. There's so much imagination. I really, really love that. So pretty. Okay. November 1929. My dear boys, my paw is better. I was cutting Christmas trees when I hurt it. Don't you think my writing is much better too? Father Christmas is very busy already. So am I. We have had heavy snow, and some of our messages got buried and some lost. That is why I have not heard lately. Love to John for his birthday. Father Christmas says my English spelling is not good. I can't help it. We don't speak English here, only Arctic, which you don't know. We also make our letters different. I have made mine like Arctic letters for you to see. We always write T for tea and V for you. This is some Arctic language, which means goodbye, till I see you next, and I hope you'll be soon. Mara mesa, an ni vela tie ento ya rato nea. PB. My real name is Karhu, but I don't tell most people. P.S. I like letters and think Christopher's are nice. And this is a picture. Like, I wish. Oh, we got a George. We got a George sighting. Hi, George. Yes, this is a family affair here. We love George. But George, okay, let's show him. So these are really cool. I like the polar bears part because he talks about it, and you can really see Tolkien's love of linguistics. And I love how he writes this because you're definitely gonna recognize us from Lord of the Rings. It's very much of like the runes. It's very much like Khazad-dûm and the dwarves. And there's his paw. Yeah, so here's what he was writing. So you have this little symbol for a T and V for a U. So yeah, get to George. Thank you, George. Thanks for coming. We love you. Oh, this is fun. This one's fun. So, top of the world, North Pole, Christmas, 1929. Dear boys and girl, it is light Christmas again, I am glad to say. The northern lights have been specially good. There is a lot to tell you. You have heard that the great polar bear chopped his paw when he was cutting Christmas trees. His right one. I mean, not his left. Of course it was wrong to cut it, and a pity too, for he spent a lot of the summer learning to write better so as to help me with my winter letters. We had a bonfire this year to please the polar bear to celebrate the coming in of winter. The snow elves let all the rockets together, which surprised us both. I have tried to draw you a picture of it, but really there were hundreds of rockets. You can't see the elves at all against the snow background. The bonfire made a hole in the ice and woke up the great seal, who happened to be underneath. The polar bear let off 20,000 silver sparklers afterwards. Used up all of my stock, so that is why I had none to send you. Then he went for a holiday to North Norway and stayed with a woodcutter called Olaf and came back with a paw all bandaged just at the beginning of our busy times. There seems to be more children than ever in England, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Germany, which are the countries I specially looked after, and of course North America and Canada. Not to speak of getting stuff down to the South Pole for children who expect to be looked after, though they have gone to live in New Zealand or Australia or South Africa or China. It is a good thing clocks don't tell the same time all over the world, or I should never get around that when my magic is strongest, at Christmas, I can do about 1,000 stockings a minute if I have all planned out beforehand. You could hardly guess the enormous piles of lists I make out. I seldom get them mixed. But I'm rather worried this year. In my office and packing room, the polar bear reads out names while I copy them down. We had awful gales here, worse than you did, tearing clouds of snow to a million tatters, screaming like demons, burying my house almost up to the roofs. Just at the worst, the polar bear said it was stuffy and opened a north window before I could stop him. You can guess the result. The North Polar Bear was buried in papers and lists, but that did not stop him laughing. Also, all my red and green ink was upset as well as black, so I am writing in chalk and pencil. I have done some black ink left, and the polar bear is using it to address parcels. I liked all your letters, very much indeed, my dears. Nobody, or very few, writes so much or nicely to me. I'm especially pleased with Christopher's card and his letters, and with his learning to write, I am sending him a fountain pen and also a special picture for himself. It shows me crossing the sea of the upper north wind, while a southwest gale, reindeer hate it, is raising big waves below. This must be all now. I send you all my love. One more stocking to fill this year. I hope you will like your new house and the things that I bring you. Your old Father Christmas. So here's is the gale. I love this illustration. Look at this window, and it just, yeah, it reminds me of when like going in the mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings, and they come to the door, and you can just really see it. I love it. I love finding stuff like of authors when they're known for a big work and something lesser known. You're like, oh my god, I found something that made it into their later works. And look at the papers. It's so cute. And the ink. There he is. And then here, this is a beautiful illustration. I love the style, the inks with the colored pencils. It's gorgeous. 1930. Father Christmas has got all your letters. What a lot, especially from Christopher and Michael. Thank you. And also Reddy and your bears and other animals. I am just beginning to get awfully busy. Let me know more about what you specially want. Polar bear sends love. He is just getting better. He has had whooping cough. Father Nicholas Christmas. This is another great illustration. That polar bears are very cool. Then he's getting sick, and there he is again. Yeah, I love the art too. And thank you all who are joining us out here. So, top of the world, North Pole, Christmas 1930. Not finished until Christmas Eve, December 24th. My dears, I have enjoyed all your letters. I am dreadfully sorry there has been no time to answer them, and even now I have not time to finish my picture for you properly or to send you a full long letter like I mean to. I hope you will like your stockings this year. I tried to find what you asked for, but the stores have been in a rather muddle. You see, the polar bear has been ill. He had whooping cough, first of all. I could not let him help with the packaging and sorting, which begins in November, because it was simple awful if any of my children caught polar whooping cough and barked like bears on Boxing Day. So I had to do everything myself in the preparations. Of course, Polar Bear has done his best. He cleaned up and mended my sleigh and looked after the reindeer while I was busy. That is how the really bad accident happened. Early this month, we had a most awful snowstorm. Nearly 6 feet of snow, followed by an awful fog. Then poor Polar Bear went out to the reindeer stables and got lost and nearly buried. I did not miss him or go to look for him for a long while. His chest had not gotten well from whooping cough, so this made him frightfully ill, and he was in bed until 3 days ago. Everything has gone wrong, and there has been no one to look after my messengers properly. Aren't you glad the polar bear is better? We had a party of snowboys, sons of the snowmen, which are the only sort of people that live near. Not, of course, men made of snow, though my gardener, who is the oldest of all the snowmen, sometimes draws a picture made of a snowman instead of writing his name. And polar cubs, the polar bear's nephews, on Saturday, as soon as he felt well enough. He didn't eat much tea, but when the big cracker went off after, he threw away his rug and leaped in the air and has been well ever since. I've drawn you pictures of everything that happened. Polar bear telling a story after the tea that had been cleared away, me finding polar bear in the snow, and polar bear sitting with his feet in hot mustard and water to stop him shivering. It didn't, and he sneezed so terribly he blew 5 candles out. Still, he is all right now. I know because he had been at his tricks again, quarreling with the snowman, my gardener, and pushing him through the roof of his snow house and packing lumps of ice instead of presents in naughty children's parcels. That might be a good idea, only he never told me that some of them, with ice, were put in warm storerooms and melted all over good children's presents. Well, my dear, there is lots more I should like to say about my green brother and my father, old grandfather Yule, and why we are both called Nicholas after the saint, whose date is December 6th, and he used to give secret presents sometimes, throwing purses of money through the window. But I must hurry away. I am late already, and I am afraid you may not get this in time. Kisses to you all, Father Nicholas Christmas. P.S. Chris has nobody to be frightened of me. That's so funny. Chris is afraid of heights. Oh my gosh. Yes, there is a whole cast of characters we're going to meet, and here's a really cool picture of like Father Christmas there. It's not really focusing. Okay. Cliff House, October 31st, 1931. Dear children, already I have got some letters from you. You are getting busy early. I have not begun to think about Christmas yet. It has been very warm in the north this year, and there has been very little snow so far. We are just getting in our Christmas firewood. This is to say my messengers will be coming around regularly now. Winter has begun. We shall be having a bonfire tomorrow, and I shall like to hear from you. Sunday and Wednesday evenings are best time to post me. The polar bear is quite well and fairly good, though you never know what he will do when the Christmas rush begins. Send my love to John, your loving Father Nicholas Christmas. Glad Father Christmas has waked up. He slept nearly all this hot summer. I wish we could have snow. My coat is quite yellow. Love, Polar Bear. And then again, the writing, so cool. Come on, focus. There he is. Hey, Lofty, nice to see you. Oh, we got a lot of people in the chat. Like, hi, DJ, Ronnie G. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. And this is just getting good. And we're good on time, too. Cool. Hopefully, I can read the whole book. I don't know if I can, but I'll do my best. Cliff House, North Pole, December 23rd, 1931. My dear children, I hope you will like the little things I have sent you. You seem to be most interested in railways just now, so I am sending you mostly things of that sort. I send as much love as ever, in fact more. We have both, the old polar bear and I, enjoyed having so many nice letters from you and your pets. If you think we have not read them, you are wrong. But if you find that not many of the things you ask for have come, and not perhaps quite as many as sometimes, remember that this Christmas, all over the world, there are a terrible number of poor and starving people. And I, also my green brother, have had to do some collecting of food and clothes and toys too for the children whose fathers and mothers and friends cannot give them anything, sometimes not even dinner. I knows yours won't forget you. So, my dears, I hope that you will be happy this Christmas and not quarrel, and will have some good games with your railway all together. Don't forget old Father Christmas when you light your tree. No, me! It has gone on being warm up here, as I told you. Not what you would call warm, but warm for the North Pole, with very little snow. The North Polar Bear, if you know who I mean, has been lazy and sleepy as a result, and very slow over packing or any junk except eating. He has enjoyed sampling and tasting the food parcels this year, to see if they were fresh and good, he said. Somebody has to, and I found stones in some of the currants. But that is not the worst. I should hardly feel it was Christmas if he didn't do something ridiculous. You will never guess what he did this time. I sent him down into one of my cellars, the cracker hole we call it, where I keep thousands of boxes of crackers. You would like to see them, rows upon rows, all with their lids off to show the kinds of colors. Well, I wanted 20 boxes and was busy sorting soldiers and farm things, so I sent him, and he was so lazy he took two snowboys, who aren't allowed down there, to help him. They started pulling crackers out of the boxes, and he tried to box them, the boys' ears, I mean, and they dodged, and he fell over and let his candle fall right. Poof! My firework cracker and boxes of sparklers. I could hear the noise and smell the smell in the hall, and when it rushed down, I saw nothing but smoke and fizzling stars, and old Polar Bear was rolling over on the floor with sparks sizzling in his coat. He has quite a bare patch burnt on his back. It looks fine. That's where Father Christmas spilled the gravy on my back at dinner. The snowboys roared with laughter and then ran away. They said it was a splendid sight, but they won't come to my party on St. Stephen's Day, as they have had more than their share already. Two of the polar bear's nephews have been staying here for some time, Paksu and Valkotuka, fat and white hair, as they say it means. They are fat-tummied polar cubs and are very funny boxing one another and rolling about. But another time I shall have them on Boxing Day, and not just at packing time. I fell over them 14 times a day last week. And Velkotuka swallowed a ball of red string, thinking it was a cake, and he got all wound up inside it and had a tangled cough. He couldn't sleep at night, but I thought it rather served him right for putting holly in my bed. It was the same cub that poured all the black ink yesterday into the fire to make night. It did, and a very smelly, smoky one. We lost Paksu all last Wednesday and found him on Thursday morning asleep in a cupboard in the kitchen. He had eaten two whole puddings raw. They seem to be growing up just like their uncle. Not fair! Goodbye now. I shall soon be off on my travels once more. You need not believe any pictures you see of me in aeroplanes or motors. I cannot drive one and don't want to. They are all too slow anyway, not to mention smell. They cannot compare with my own reindeer, which I train myself. They are all very well this year, and I expect my post will be in very good time. I have got some new young ones this Christmas from Lapland. A great place for wizards. But these are wizards. Bad. One day I will send you a picture of my dear stables and harness houses. I am expecting that John, although he is over 14, will hang up his stocking this last time, but I don't forget people even when they are past stocking age, not until they forget me. So I send love to you all, and especially little PM, who is beginning her stocking days, and I hope they will be happy. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. This is all drawn by North Polar Bear. Don't you think he is getting better? But the green ink is mine, and he didn't ask for it. This is a fun letter because I think the story is really getting really cool, and I think it's interesting how he starts in the beginning, kind of reminding the kids, hey, look, hey, we're going through some hard times. I know in the U.S. in the 30s, we're starting the Great Depression and stuff, so it must have been really hard for everyone. And I like how he explains that, and he still tells a good story too. But yeah, it was all written. This is written in the green and the red ink here. Oh, I love this illustration. I think it is so awesome. So here we got North Polar Bear and Karhu, and here is the illustration. This is so pretty. It looks like a wood cutting or something. And that's his drawing for the year. And then this was the great fireworks explosion. When I was first reading it took a little time for me. Oh, crackers and some fire crackings. That's cool. That's pretty neat. So we're going on, and 1932. My dear children, thank you for all your nice letters. I have not forgotten you. I am very late this year and very worried. A funny thing that has happened. The polar bear has disappeared and I don't know where he is. I have not seen him since the beginning of this month and I'm getting anxious. Tomorrow, December, the Christmas month, begins and I don't know what I shall do without him. I am glad you are all well and your many pets. The snow baby holidays begin tomorrow. I wish Polar Bear was here to look after them. Much love to Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla. Please send John my love when you write to him. Father and Crispus. So I'm guessing by this one, John has gone off to school, if I remember correctly. But here's the up letter. It was kind of interesting. I went to the UK and they don't really, obviously, don't do Thanksgiving. So it's like you kind of go from October, and as soon as like you're done with Halloween and Guy Fawkes Day on November 5th, they just go hard into Christmas and they do some really cool things there. They do Christmas markets, which are really fun, and they do a lot of lights, and then there's a lot of vendors and stuff, and pantomimes, which are like Christmas plays that are kind of strange, but it was definitely cool. All right, here we go. 1932. This is really cool because he really starts developing like the story of the North Pole, and we meet more characters, and there is definitely more story happening. And check out the illustration on this one. It is so pretty. December 23rd, 1932. My dear children, there is a lot to tell you. First of all, a Merry Christmas, but there have been lots of adventures you will want to hear about. It all began with the funny noises underground, which started in the summer and got worse and worse. I was afraid an earthquake might happen. The North Polar Bear says he suspected what was wrong from the beginning. I only wish he had said something to me. And anyway, it can't be quite true, as he was fast asleep when it began and did not wake up until about Michael's birthday. However, he went off for a walk one day at the end of November, I think, and never came back. About a fortnight ago, I began to be really worried, for after all, the old dear thing is really a lot of help in spite of accidents and very amusing. One Friday evening, December 9th, there was a bumping at the front door and a snuffling. I thought he had come back and lost his key, as often before, but when I opened the door, there was another very old bear there, a very fat and funny shaped one. Excuse me. Actually, it was the eldest of the few remaining cave bears, old Mr. Cave Bear himself. I had not seen him for centuries. Do you want your North Polar Bear? He said. If you do, you had better come and get him. It turned out he was lost in the caves, belonging to Mr. Cave Bear, so he says, not far from the ruins of my old house. He says he found a hole on the side of a hill and went inside because it was snowing. He slipped down a long slope and lots of rock fell after him, and he found he could not climb up or get out again. But almost at once he smelt Goblin and became interested and started to explore. Not very wise, for of course goblins can't hurt him, but their caves are very dangerous. Check out the goblin cage. Oh, I love it. It's so cool. Like it's so cool in the cave drawings and stuff. Okay. Naturally, he soon got quite lost, and the goblins shut off all their lights and made queer noises and false echoes. Goblins are to us very much rats are to you, and only worse because they are very clever, and only better because they are in these parts very few. We thought that there were none left. Long ago we had great trouble with them, and that was about 1453, I believe. But we got the help of the gnomes, who are the greatest enemies, and cleared them out. Anyway, there was poor old Polar Bear lost in the dark all among them, and all alone until he met Cave Bear, who lives there. Cave Bear can see pretty well in the dark, and he offered to take Polar Bear to his private back door. So they set off together, but the goblins were very excited and angry. Polar Bear had boxed one or two flat that came and poked at him in the dark and had said some very nasty things to them all. And they enticed him away by imitating Cave Bear's voice, which of course they know very well. So Polar Bear got into a frightful dark part in all of the different passages, and he lost Cave Bear, and Cave Bear lost him. Light is what we need, said Cave Bear to me. So I got some of my special sparkling torches, which I sometimes use in my deepest cellars, and we set off that night. The caves are wonderful. I knew they were there, but not how many or how big they were. Of course, the goblins went off into the deepest holes and corners, and we soon found Polar Bear. He was getting quite long and thin with hunger, and he had been in the caves about a fortnight. He said, I should soon have been able to squeeze through a goblin crack. Polar Bear himself was astonished when I brought light, for the most remarkable thing that the walls of these caves were all covered with pictures cut into rocks or painted in red and brown and black. Some of them are very good, mostly of animals, and some are queer and some bad, and there are many strange marks, signs, and scribbles, some of which have a nasty look and I am sure have something to do with black magic. Cave Bear says these caves belong to him and have belonged to him or his family since the days of his great 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 multiplied by 10 grandfather. And the bears first had the idea of decorating the walls and used to scratch pictures on the soft parts. It was useful for sharpening the claws. Then men came along. Imagine it. Cave Bear says there were lots about it one time long ago when the North Pole was somewhere else. That was long before my time, and I have never heard old Grandfather Yule mention it ever, so I don't know if he's talking nonsense or not. Many of the pictures were done by these cavemen, the best ones, especially the big ones, almost life size, of animals, some of which have since disappeared. There are dragons and quite a lot of mammoths. Men also put some of the black marks in pictures there. But the goblins have scribbled all over the place. They can't draw well in anyway. They like nasty quiz shapes best. North Polar Bear got quite excited when he saw all these things. He said, "These cave people could draw better than you, Daddy Noel, and I wouldn't your young friends just like to see some really good pictures, especially some properly drawn bears for a change." Rather rude, I thought, if only a joke, as I take a lot of trouble over my Christmas pictures. Some of them take quite a minute to do, and though I only send them to special friends, I have a good many in different places. So just to show him, and to please you, I have copied the whole page from the wall of the chief central cave, and I send you a copy. It is not perhaps quite as well drawn as the originals, which were very, very much larger, except the goblin parts, which are easy. They're the only parts the polar bear can do at all. He says he likes them best, but that is only because he can copy them. The goblin pictures must be very old because the goblin fighters are sitting on drassels, a very queer sort of dwarf dachshund horse creature they used to use, but they have died out long ago. I believe the red gnomes finished them off somewhere about Edward the Fourth's time. The animal drawings are magnificent. The hairy rhinoceros looks wicked. There is a nasty look in the mammoth's eyes. Also the ox, stag, bear, and cave bear, portraits of Mr. Cave Bear's 71st ancestor, he says, and some other kind of polarish but not quite polar bear. North Polar Bear would like to believe it is a portrait of one of his ancestors. Just under the bears is the best a goblin can do at drawing reindeer. You have been so good in writing to me, and such beautiful letters too, that I have tried to draw you some specially nice pictures this year. At the top of my Christmas card is a picture, imaginary, but more or less, as it really is, of me arriving over Oxford. Your house is just above where the three little black points stick up out of the shadows at the right. I am coming from the north, and note not with a 12 pair of deer, as you will see in some books. I usually use 7 pair. 14 is such a nice number, and at Christmas, especially if I am hurried, I add my 2 special white ones in front. Next comes a picture of me and Cave Bear, North Polar Bear, exploring the caves. I will tell you more about that in a minute. The last picture hasn't happened yet. It will soon. On St. Stephen's Day, there were brushes all over. I am going to have a rowdy party. The Cave Bear's grandchildren, they are exactly like live teddy bears. Snow babies, some children of the red gnomes, and of course polar cubs, including Paxu and Velkotuka, will be there. I'm wearing a pair of new green trousers. They were a present from my green brother, but I only wear them at home. Goblins, anyway, dislike green, so I found them useful. You see, when I rescued Polar Bear, we hadn't finished the adventure. At the beginning of last week, we went to the cellars to get up the stuff for England. I said to Polar Bear, "Somebody has been disarranging things here." "Paxu and Valtoka, I expect," he said, but it was it. Next day things were much worse, especially among the railway things, lots of which seemed to be missing. I ought to have guessed, and Polar Bear anyway ought to have mentioned his guess to me. Last Saturday we went down and found nearly everything had disappeared out of the main cellar. Imagine my state of mind. Nothing hardly to send to anybody, and too little time to get and make enough new stuff. North Polar Bear said, "I smell goblin strong." Of course, it was obvious. They love mechanical toys, though they quickly smash them and want more and more and more, and practically all the Hornby things had gone. Eventually, we found a large hole, but not big enough for us, leading to a tunnel behind some packing cases in the west cellar. As you will expect, we rushed off to find Cave Bear, and we went back to the caves. We soon understood the queer noises. It was plain the goblins long ago had burrowed a tunnel from the caves to my old home, which was not so far from the end of their hills, and had stolen a good many things. We found some things more than 100 years old, and even a few parcels still addressed to your great-great-grand people, but they had been very clever and not too greedy, and I had not found out. Ever since I moved, they must have been busy burrowing all the way up my cliff, boring, banging, and blasting as quietly as they could. At last they had reached my new cellars, and the height of the Hornby things was too much for them. They took all they could. I dare say they were also still angry with Polar Bear. Also, they thought we couldn't get at them. But I sent my patent green luminous smoke down the tunnel, and Polar Bear blew and blew and blew with our enormous kitchen bellows. They simply shrieked and rushed out the other cave end. But there were red gnomes there. I had specifically sent for them. A few of the real old families are still in Norway. They captured hundreds of goblins and chased many more out into the snow, which they hate. We made them show us where they had hidden things or bring them all back again, and by Monday we had practically everything back. The gnomes are still dealing with the goblins and promise there won't be one left by New Year, but I am not so sure. They will crop up again in a century or so, I expect. We have had a rush, but dear old Cave Bear and his sons and the gnome ladies helped, so that we are now very well formed and all packed. I hope there is not all the faintest smell of goblin about any of your things. They have all been well aired. There are still a few railwork things missing, and I hope you will have what you want. I am not able to carry quite as much toy cargo as usual this year, as I am taking a good deal of food and clothes, useful stuff. There are far too many people in your land and others who are hungry and cold this winter. I am glad that with you the weather is warmish. It is not warm here. We've had tremendous icy winds and terrific snowstorms, and my old house is quite buried. But I'm feeling very well, better than ever, and though my hand wobbles with pen, partly because I don't like writing as much as drawing, which I learned first, I don't think it is so wobbly this year. The polar bear got your father's scribble today and was very puzzled by it. I told him it looked like old lecture notes, and he laughed. He says he thinks Oxford is quite a mad place if people lecture and stuff. But I don't suppose anybody listens to it. The drawings pleased him better. He said, at any rate, those boys' father tried to draw bears, though they aren't very good. Of course, it is all nonsense, but I will answer it. So he made up an alphabet from the marks in the caves. He said it's much nicer than the ordinary letters or than Brune's or polar letters, and suits his paw better. He writes them with the tail of his pen holder. He has sent a short letter to you in this alphabet to wish you a Merry Christmas and lots of fun in the new year and good luck at school. As you all are so clever now, he says, what with Latin and French and Greek, you will easily read it and see that Polar Bell sends so much love. I am not so sure. Anyway, I dare say that he would send you a copy of his alphabet if you wrote and asked. By the way, he writes it all in columns from top to bottom, not across. Don't tell him I gave away his secret. This is one of my very longest letters. It has been an exciting time. I hope you will like hearing about it. I send you all my love, John, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla, also Mummy and Daddy and Auntie and all the people in your house. I dare say John will feel he has got to give up stockings now and give way to the many new children that have arrived since he first began to hang his up. But Father Christmas will not forget him. Bless you all. Your loving Nicholas Christmas. Wow, that is like that is the biggest one. So we have to go back and show you. I think okay. So this is the cave and the cave drawings. I think I showed you this one. And then we have look at the cave drawings. Like this is a really banger of a letter for this year. Like they're so cool. I mean, it's simply obviously these are the I think the Lascaux caves in France. Got inspiration from that. But there's your goblin drawings. Yeah, goblins suck. But man, this story, it's like it's J.R.R. I mean, like they're going and hunting down all the goblins. Is this the first kinsling? I don't know. Anyway, here's the goblin alphabet or the transcribed version of it. And I just love I appreciate his understanding and love of playing and inventing new languages. And I've studied linguistics. It is very, very difficult. It's not something that came very easy to me. And I definitely think that's amazing he can do that. And I also think it's amazing that like his kids are studying Latin and French and Greek, which is yeah, we just don't learn that anymore. Also, like they can't really show this, but like the illustration on this page of London is like really pretty. I love that. I just like the stylistic. It kind of reminds me of like Art Nouveau, and I really love that stuff. And hopefully my voice doesn't give out. I'm gonna get some tea. All right, onwards. North Pole, December 2nd, 1933. Dear people, very cold here at last. Business has really begun, and we are working hard. I've had a good many letters from you. Thank you. I have made notes for what you want so far, but I expect I shall hear more from you yet. I am rather short of messengers, the goblins have, but I haven't time to tell you about our excitements now. I hope I shall find time to send a letter later. Give John my love when you see him. I send love to you all and a kiss for Priscilla. Tell her my beard is quite nice and soft, and I have never shaved. 3 weeks to Christmas Eve. Yours, Father Nicholas Christmas. Cheer up, chaps. Also chaplet if that's the feminine. The fun's beginning. Yours, Polar Bear. Cliff House near the North Pole, December 21st, 1933. Enough, my dears, another Christmas, and I almost thought at one time in November that there would not be one this year. There would be the 25th of December, of course, but nothing from your old great, etc. grandfather at the North Pole. Goblins. The worst attack we have had for centuries. They have been fearfully wild and angry ever since we took away their stolen toys from them last year and doused them with green smoke. You remember the great red gnomes promised to clear all of them out. There was not one to be found in any hole or cave by New Year's Day, but I said they would crop up again in a century or so. They have not waited so long. They must have gathered their nasty friends from mountains all over the world and been busy all summer while we were at our sleepiest. This time we had very little warning. Soon after All Saints' Day, Polar Bears got very restless. Now says he smelled nasty smells, but he usually did not say anything. He says he did not want to trouble me. He is really a nice old thing, and this time he absolutely saved Christmas. He took to sleeping in the kitchen with his nose toward the cellar door, opening the main stairway down into my big stores. One night, just about Christopher's birthday, I woke up suddenly. There was squeaking and spluttering in the room and a nasty smell in my own best green and purple room that I had just done up most beautifully. I caught sight of a wicked little face in the window. Then I was really upset, for my window was high above the little cliff, and that meant there were bat-riding goblins about, which we haven't seen since the Goblin War in 1453 that I told you about. I was only just awake when a terrific din began far downstairs in the store cellars. I would take too long to describe it, so I have tried to draw a picture of what I saw when I got down, after treading on a goblin on the mat. Only there was more like 1,000 goblins than 15. But you could hardly expect me to draw 1,000. Polar Bear was squeaking, squashing, trampling, boxing, and kicking goblins sky high, roaring like a zoo, and the goblins were yelling like engine whistles. He was splendid. Say no more. I enjoyed it immensely. Well, it is a long story. The trouble lasted for over a fortnight, and it began to look as if I should never be able to get my sleigh out this year. The goblins had set part of the stores on fire and captured several gnomes who slept down there on guard before Polar Bear and some more gnomes came in and killed 100 before I arrived. Even when we had put the fire out and cleared the cellars and house, I can't think what they were doing in my room unless they were trying to set fire to my bed. The trouble went on. The ground was black with goblins under the moon when we looked out, and they had broken up my stables and gone with the reindeer. I had to blow my golden trumpet, which I have not done for many years, to summon all my friends. There were several battles. Every night they used to attack and set fires in the stores before we got the upper hand, and I am afraid quite a lot of my dear elves got hurt. Fortunately, we have not lost much except my best string, gold and silver, and packing papers and holly bosses. I am very short of these, and I have been very short of messengers. Lots of my people are still away. I hope they will come back safe, chasing the goblins out of my land, those that are left alive. They have rescued all my reindeer. We are quite happy and settled again now and feel much safer. It really will be centuries before we get another goblin trouble. Thanks to Polar Bear and the gnomes, there can be not many left at all. And Father Christmas, I wish you could draw or had time to draw. You have no idea what the old man can do. Literally, lightning and fireworks and thunder of guns. Polar Bear certainly has been helping and double help, but he has mixed up some of the girls' things with the boy things in his hurry. We hope we have got all sorted out, but if you hear of anyone getting a doll when they want it in an engine, you will know why. Actually, Polar Bear tells me I am wrong. We did lose a lot of railway stuff. Goblins always go for that, and what we got back was damaged and will have to be repainted. It will be busy next year. Now, a Merry Christmas to you all once again. I hope you will all have a very happy time, and I will find that I have taken notice of your letters and sent you what you wanted. I don't think my pictures are very good this year, though I took quite a time over them, at least 2 minutes. Polar Bear says, I don't see that a lot of stars and pictures of goblins in your bedroom are so frightfully merry. Still, I hope you won't mind. It is rather good of Polar Bear kicking, really. Anyway, I send lots of love. Yours ever and annually, Father Nicholas Christmas. And here we have the Great Polar Bear War. Come on, get the focus. There we go. Look at the goblins. I love it. They're just like shadows, shadow spawn. And then we have the like Aurora kind of thing that he does. Come on, focus. And then 1933. That is really pretty. I love how as the children get older, the stories have gotten more like darker. They're a lot more like older kids story, and there's definitely some the goblin slaying here going on. But yeah, hello to everyone that's joined. I see CLS is here. Oh, 1934. Alert, alert. To messenger, deliver at once and don't stop on the way. At once, urgent, express. My dearest Christopher, thank you. I am awake and have been a long while, but my post office does not really open ever until Michaelmas. I shall not be sending my messengers out regularly this year until about October 15th. There is a good deal to do up here. Your telegram, that is why I have sent an express reply, and letter and Priscilla's were found quite by accident. Not by a messenger, but by Bellman. I don't know how he got that name because he never brings any. He is my chimney inspector and always begins work as soon as the first fires are lit. Very much love to you and Priscilla. The polar bear, if you remember him, is still fast asleep and quite thin after so much fasting. He will soon cure that. I shall tickle his ribs and wake him up soon, and he will eat several months' breakfast all in one. More love, your loving Father Christmas. I like the bear kicking, the polar bear kicking cave bear there. Bear on bear violence. All right. Cliff House, North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1934. My dear Christopher, thank you very much for your many letters. I have not had time this year to write you so long a letter as 1932 and 33, but nothing at all has exciting has happened. I hope that I have pleased you with the things I am bringing and that they are near enough to your lists. Very little news. After this frightful business of last year, there has not been even a smell of a goblin for 200 miles around. But as I said it would, it took us far into the summer to repair all the damage, and we lost a lot of sleep and rest. When November came around, we did not feel like getting to work, and we were rather slow and so have been rushed at the end. Also, it has been unusually warm for the North Pole, and the polar bear still keeps on yawning. Paxu and Velkotuka have been here a long while. They have grown a great deal, but still get up to frightful mischief in between times of trying to help. This year they stole my paints and painted scrawls on the walls of the cellars, ate all the mincemeat out of the pies made ready for Christmas, and only yesterday went and unpacked half the parcels to find railway things to play with. They don't get on well with cave cubs. Somehow, several of these have arrived today and are staying here a few nights with old Cave Brown. Cave, who is their uncle, granduncle, grandfather, great granduncle, etc. Paxu is always kicking them because they squeak and grunt so funnily. Polar Bear has to box him often, and a box from Polar Bear is no joke. As there are no goblins about, and there is no wind, and far much less snow than usual, we are going to have a great Boxing Day party ourselves, out of doors. I shall ask 100 elves and red gnomes, lots of polar cubs, cave cubs, and snow babies, and of course Paxu and Falcotuca, and Polar Bear and Cave Bear and his nephews, etc. will be there. We have brought a tree all the way from Norway and planted it in a pool of ice. My picture gives you no idea of its size or of the loveliness of magic lights of different colors. We tried them yesterday evening to see if they were all right. If you see a bright glow in the north, you know what it is. Behind the tree are snow plants and piled masses of snow made into ornamental shapes. They are purple and black because of darkness and shadow. There is also a special edging of the ice pool and is made of red-colored icing. Paxu and Vakotuka are already nibbling at it, though they should not till the party. Polar Bear started to draw this to help me, as I was busy, but he dropped such blots, enormous ones. I had to come to the rescue. Not very good this year. Never mind, perhaps better next year. I hope you will like your presents and be very happy. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. I can't remember exactly in what year I was born. I doubt if anyone knows. I am always changing my own mind about it. Anyway, it was 1934 years ago, or jolly nearly that. Bless you, Father Christmas. P.P.S. Give my love to Mick and John. Polar Bear. Love busy. Thanks. And then here's the illustration. This is just great. This is a Christmas tree. Oh, I love it. It's so cool. I know I'm also a huge fan of Beatrix Potter, and I just love like the illustrations and her stories too. And that was about the same period of time. And this is another interesting one because you can kind of tell from the context of the responses that he gives them that I think like Christopher was really into writing him, and he had like a really amazing imagination too. So that is like really fun. And oh, there's the bear kicking each other. That's really funny. Hello, Kale. Kale, happy solstice. Many blessings to you out there. I know you celebrate that too. So, moving on, 1935. My dear children, here we go again. Christmas seems to come round pretty soon again. Always much the same and always different. No ink this year and no water, so no painted pictures. Also very cold hands, so very wobbly writing. Last year it was very warm, but this year it is frightfully cold. Snow, snow, snow and ice. We have been simply buried. Messengers have got lost and found themselves in Nova Scotia, if you know where that is, instead of in Scotland. And PB, if you know who that is, cannot get home. This is a picture of my house about a week ago before we got the reindeer sheds dug out. We had to make a tunnel to the front door. There are only 3 windows upstairs shining through holes, and there is steam where the snow is melting in the dome and roof. It's a mess. I don't know. I am so done with winter. It's been like in the 20s and highs in the 30s here, and we don't have snow, but it is so dreary. This is a view from my bedroom window. Of course, snow coming down is not blue, but blue is cold. You can understand why your letters are slow in going. I hope I got them all, and anyway, that the right things arrived for you. Poor old polar bear, if you know who I mean, had to go away soon after the snow began last month. There was some trouble in his family, and Paxu and Valkotuka were ill. He is very good at doctoring anybody but himself. But it is a dreadfully long way over the ice and snow to North Greenland, I believe, and when he got there, he could not get back. So I have been rather held up, especially as the reindeer stables and the outdoor store sheds are snowed over. I have to do a lot of red elves to help me. They are very nice and great fun, but although they are very quick, they don't get on fast, for they turn everything into a game, even digging snow, and they will play with the toys they are supposed to be packing. Oh, here. Oh, I love the polar bear illustration. It's cute. Then there's the red elves. And I'm like, yay, more elves to figure out. I like that. PB, if you remember him, did not get back until Friday, December 13th. So that proved a lucky day for me after all. Heh heh. Even he had to wear a sheepskin coat and red gloves for his paws, and he had got a hood on and red gloves. He thinks he looks rather like Rye St. Anthony, but of course he does not very much. Anyway, he carries things in his hood. He brought home his sponge and soap in it. He says that we have not seen the last of the goblins, in spite of the battles in 1933. They won't dare to come into my land yet, but for some reason they are breeding again and multiplying all over the world. Quite a nasty outbreak. But there are not many in England, he says. I suspect I shall have trouble with them again soon. I have given my elves some new magic sparkler spears that will scare them out of their wits. It is now December 24th, and they have not appeared this year, and practically everything is packed up and ready. I will be starting soon. I send you all, John and Michael and Christopher and Priscilla, my love and good wishes this Christmas. Tons of good wishes. Pass on a few if you don't want them all. Polar Bear, in this case you don't know what PB is, sends his love to you, and to the Bingos, and to Orange Teddy, and to Jubilee. Oh, yes, I learn lots of news even in snowy weather. My messengers will be out and about in the new year if you want to write and tell me everything was all right. I hope you enjoy the pantomime. Your loving Father Christmas. P.S. Paxu and Valkotuka are well again, only mumps. They will be at my big party on St. Stephen's Day with other polar cubs, cave cubs, snow babies, elves, and all the rest. Oh, this is cool. I like this one too. The goblins. I hate goblins. I know Kale was playing D&D the first time I played it, and we had some goblin issues. We think we hate goblins too. Oh, here's that. And again, his lettering is so beautiful. Kind of hard to see on this one. Oh yeah, the pantomime. Oh, so this thing here, I don't know if you can see it, is like one of the kind of stock characters from the pantomime that's a little bit racist, but it's 1934, 5. Yeah. All right. Cliff House, North Pole, Wednesday, December 23rd, 1936. My dear children, I'm sorry I cannot send you a long letter to thank you for yours, but I am sending you a picture which will explain a good deal. It is a good thing your changed lists arrived before these awful events, or could I not have done anything about it. I do hope you will like what I am bringing and will forgive any mistakes, and I hope nothing will still be wet. I am still so shaky and upset. I am getting one of my elves to write a bit more about things. I send very much love to you all. Let me see this one. Father Christmas says you will want to hear some news. Polar Bear has been quite good, or has been, though he has been rather tired. So has Father Christmas. I think the Christmas business is getting rather too much for them. So a lot of us red and green elves have gone to live permanently at Cliff House and be trained in the packing business. It was Polar Bear's idea. He also invented the number system so that every child that Father Christmas deals with has a number, and we elves learn them all by heart, and all the addresses. That saves a lot of writing. So many children have the same name that every package used to have the address as well. Polar Bear said, I am going to have a record year and keep Father Christmas to get so forward we can have some fun ourselves on Christmas Day. We all worked hard, and you will be surprised to hear that every single parcel was packed and numbered by Saturday, December 19th. Then Polar Bear said, I am tired out. I am going to have a hot bath and go to bed early. Well, you can guess what happened. Father Christmas was taking a last look around the English delivery room at about 10 o'clock when water poured through the ceiling and swamped everything. It was soon 6 inches deep on the floor. Polar Bear had simply gone to the bath with both taps running and had gone fast asleep with one high paw on the overflow. He had been asleep 2 hours when we woke him. Father Christmas was really angry, but Polar Bear only said, I did have a jolly dream. I dreamt I was diving off a melting iceberg and chasing seals. He said later when he saw the damage, well, there is one thing. Those children at North Pole Road, Oxford, he always says that, may lose some of their presents, but they will have a letter worth hearing this year. They can see a joke, even if none of you can. That made Father Christmas angrier, and Polar Bear said, well, draw a picture of it and ask them if it is funny or not. So Father Christmas has, but he has begun to think it funny, though very annoying himself, now that we have cleared up the mess and got the English presents repackaged again. Just in time. We are all rather tired, so please excuse scrawly writing. Yours, Ilbereth, Secretary to Father Christmas. Very sorry. Been busy. Can't find that alphabet. We'll look after Christmas and post it. Yours, Polar Bear. Oh yes, so we start getting the elves in here. So this is the elf letter, and hope I'm doing justice with the voices here to try to change it to match the writing, but they does change the style. And then here's the illustration, and then again with the aurora borealis up there, and I love the bathtub. I know it sounds really funny, but my grandma had one of these tubs, and we would turn it on and just like, how far can we get it? I don't even think that tub had like an emergency drain. So yeah, that ended about as well as it did for Polar Bear here. And we have Father Christmas just being so angry there, and then he is there inventing numbers. And hello, Brian. Nice to see you. All right, we're getting towards the end of it. This one's cool. A letter from Polar Bear. I have found it. I send you a copy. You needn't fill in the black parts if you don't want to. It takes rather long to write, but I think it is rather clever. Still busy. Father Christmas says I can't have a bath till next year. Love you both because you see jokes. Polar Bear. I got into hot water, didn't I? Ha ha ha. And then again, this was really cool. It's the Goblin alphabet, and he gives him some more like decoding of it. So I can imagine like his kids were like trying to figure out what he had written in years past, maybe. There it is. That's really cool. Is Father Christmas Gandalf? I don't know, but we just did the kinslaying, Brian, and I'm just like, wow, okay, this got dark. And now we've met some of the elves. Apparently there's different there's red elves, and I'm guessing there's probably green elves or something like that. I also think it's really cool because there's goblins, there's gnomes, there's there's two different kinds of polar bears. There's different kind of Christmas spirits like Father Christmas that he knows, and one of them is he references as green, which immediately made me think of Radagast and other of them are like that. And onward to 1937. My dear Christopher and Priscilla, and other old friends in Oxford, here we are again. Of course, I am always here when not traveling, but you know what I mean. Christmas again. I believe it is 17 years since I started to write you. I wonder if you still have got all my letters. I have not been able to keep quite all yours, but I have got some from every year. We had quite a fright this year. No letters came from you. Then one day early in December, I sent a messenger who used to go to Oxford a lot, but he had not then been there for a long while, and he said, their house is empty and everything is sold. I was afraid something had happened, or that you had all gone to school in some other town, and your father and mother had moved. Of course, I know now. The messenger had been to your old house next door. He complained that all the windows were shut and the chimneys were all blocked up. I was very glad indeed to get Priscilla's first letter and your two nice letters and useful lists and hints since Christopher came back. I quite understand that school makes it difficult for you to write like you used. And of course, I have new children coming on my list each year so that I don't get less busy. Tell your father I am sorry about his eyes and throat. I once had my eyes very bad from snow blindness, which comes from looking at sunless snow. But it got better. I hope Priscilla and your mother and everyone else will be well on December 25th. I am afraid I have not had any time to draw you a picture this year. You see, I strained my hand moving heavy boxes in the cellars in November and could not start my letters until later than usual, and my hand still gets tired quickly. But Ilbereth, one of the cleverest elves who I took on as a secretary not long ago, is becoming very good. He can write several alphabets now: Arctic, Latin, that is ordinary European like you use, Greek, Russian, runes, and of course Elvish. His writing is a bit thin and slanting. He has a very slender hand, and his drawing is a bit scratchy, I think. He won't use paints. He says he is a secretary and so uses only ink and pencil. He is going to finish this letter for me as I have to do some others. So I will now send you lots of love, and I do hope that I have chosen the best things out of your suggestion list. I was going to send hobbits. I am sending away loads, mostly second editions, which I sent for only a few days ago, but I thought you would have lots, so I am sending another Oxford fairy story. Lots and lots of love, Father Christmas. I'm laughing because I couldn't remember if Ilbreth was a dude or a chick. And I did the voice wrong. Oh well. Are we just going for it? Dear children, I am Ilbereth. I have written you before. I am finishing for Father Christmas. Shall I tell you about my pictures? Polar Bear and Valatoku and Pascu are always lazy after Christmas, or rather after the St. Stephen's Day party. Father Christmas is ringing for breakfast in vain. Another day when Polar Bear, as usual, was late. Not true. Pascu threw a bath sponge full of icy water on his face. Polar Bear chased him all around the house and around the garden and then forgave him because he had not caught Pascu but had found a huge appetite. We had terrible weather at the end of winter and actually had rain. We could not go out for days. I have drawn Polar Bear and his nephews when they did venture out. Pascu and Valatoku have never gone away. They like it so much that they have begged to stay. It was much too warm at the North Pole this year. A large lake formed at the bottom of the cliff and let the North Pole standing on an island. I have drawn a view looking south, so the cliff is on the other side. It was about midsummer. North Polar Bear, his nephews, and lots of polar clubs used to come and bathe. Also seals. North Polar Bear took to trying to paddle a boat or canoe, but he fell in so often that the seals thought he liked it and used to get under the boat and tip it up. That made him annoyed. The sport did not last long, and the water froze again early in August. Then we began to think of it as Christmas. In my picture, Father Christmas is dividing up the list and giving me my special lot. You are in it. North Polar Bear, of course, always pretends to be managing everything. That's why he is pointing. But I am really listening to Father Christmas, and I am saluting him, not the North Polar Bear. Rude little errand boy. We had a glorious bonfire and fireworks to celebrate the coming of winter and the beginning of real preparations. The snow came down very thick in November, and the elves and snow boys had several tobogganing half holidays. The polar cubs were not good at it. They fell off, and most of them took to rolling or sliding down just on themselves. Today, but this is the best bit, I had just finished my picture, or I might have drawn it differently. And better. Polar Bear was being allowed to decorate a big tree in the garden all by himself and a ladder. Suddenly I heard terrible growling, squealy noises. We rushed out to find Polar Bear hanging on the tree himself. You are not a decoration, said Father Christmas. Anyway, I am a light, he shouted. He threw a bucket of water over him, which spoilt a lot of the decorations, but saved his fur. The silly old thing had rested the ladder against a branch instead of a trunk of the tree. Then he thought, I will just light the candles up to see if they are working, although he was told not to. So he climbed to the tip of the ladder with a taper. Just then the branch cracked, the ladder slipped on the snow, and Polar Bear fell in the tree and caught some wire, and his fur got caught on fire. Poor joke. Luckily, he was rather damp, or he might have fizzled. I wonder if roast polar is good to eat. Not as good as well spanked and fried, elf. The last picture is imaginary and not very good, but I hope it will come true. It will if Polar Bear behaves. I hope you can read my writing. I try to write like dear old Father Christmas, without the trembles, but I cannot do so well. I can write Elvish better. That is some, but Father Christmas says I write even that too spidery, and I would never read it. Love, Ilbereth. A big hug and lots of love. Enormous thanks for letters. I don't get many, though I work so hard. I am practicing new writing with lovely thick pen, quicker than Arctic. I invented it. Ill breath is cheeky. How are the bingos? A Merry Christmas, North Polar Bear. I love this part. This is like really interesting because it's again another section where you can see the kids are growing up. It's like they moved and like they're at school and here's some of the drawings. I also like it's different because it's Ilberath like doing them now, so they're stylistically a little different and the script looks different. It's more like just straight cursive and you can see some of the illustrations here and it's definitely feels more elvish. And yeah. Let me see if there's any other pictures here. Yeah, and then this is fun too. The little like different like scripts of it. Look at. I like also it's like it's really cool too because we get a mention of the Hobbit, and I'm guessing by that time that it had been published, and he talks about like speaking Greek, Russian, runes, and Elvish, and at the end, this is really cool. Is actual Elvish, and it's cool that they have a font and unfortunately like I can't read it and I think it is really interesting that my boyfriend's father, who unfortunately passed away recently, he was a big Lord of the Rings fan. He actually spoke Elvish. And I think that is so cool. And, it's kind of sad when we can't meet our family members. And I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet him because I think he'd probably get a trip out of this book too. So, yeah, here is the next section. And I am so trying to keep my voice on this. And sorry, Ilbereth is now canonically a female elf. uh, yeah, and that is one thing of thinking. Like, I think um, I'm very grateful that like Will's dad did like instill in his kids like a very like the love of Lord of the Rings and nerdy stuff, and I was very excited that I got to read Lord of the Rings with Will for the first time, and I know when I was reading the end, I read him the battle with Theoden and that of the Battle of Pelennor Fields. I read that aloud to him, and he fell asleep, and that was really sweet. And then when I got to the end of Lord of the Rings, I was like crying so hard, and he was there to hold me, and it was really sweet, and it was really awesome, like sharing the book with someone who for whom it meant a lot in his life. So I'm glad I got that experience. And then of course it was great that I got to experience Lord of the Rings with a bunch of people like on our on the White Cloaks Discord. We recently did a book club reading of it, and that was really really awesome. And I had a great time reading that, and I even dressed up to do the chapters that I did with him and had a fun time too. And I think it's really cool because so many people have read this book and like this is a year of Tolkien for me. Like I have not been into it before and I have absolutely loved everything that I've read. Even the Silmarillion, which is it is thick and dense, and I love how Feanor like defends the Silmarillion on Twitter all the time, and I agree with him. I mean, it is not an easy read, and I think sometimes people use that to kind of say like it's not very good or something like that, but that's really unfair. So thank you for people who are joining us. Hi Jacob and hi Kale. And yeah, I completely miss our D&D games, and they were so fun and I had a great time, and thank you for playing with me, and hopefully like maybe we could get another group started with that or something like that. I haven't really been playing D&D a lot, but I am grateful for the time that I got to spend with everyone in our group. Okay, I need a drink again, sorry. 1938. My dear Priscilla and all others at your house, here we are again. Bless me, I believe I said that before. But after all, you don't want Christmas to be different each year, do you? I am frightfully sorry that I haven't had the time to draw any big picture this year, and Ilberith, my secretary, has not done one either, but we are all sending you some rhymes instead. Some of my other children seem to like rhymes, so perhaps you will. We have all been very sorry to hear about Christopher. I hope he is better and will have a jolly Christmas. I only heard lately when my messengers and letter collectors came back from Oxford. Excuse me. Tell him to cheer up, and although he is now growing up and leaving stockings behind, I shall bring a few things along this year. Among them is a small astronomy book which gives a few hints on the use of telescopes. Thank you for telling me he had got one. Dear me, my hand is shaky. I hope you can read some of this. I loved your long letter with the amusing pictures. Give my love to your Bingos and all the other 60 or more, especially Raggles and Prettily and Tinker and Taylor and Jubilee and Snowball. I hope you will go on writing for me for a long while yet. Very much love to you, and lots for Chris from Father Christmas. It was a like picture. A little different style on that one. And oh yes, the poetry. We're big fans of Tolkien poetry. Again this year, my dear Priscilla, when you're asleep upon your pillow, bad rhyme, that's beaten you. Beside your bed, old Father Christmas, the English language has no rhyme to Father Christmas. That is why I'm not very good at making verses. But what I find good deal worse is that girls' and boys' names won't rhyme either. And bother, either won't rhyme either. So please forgive me, my dear Priscilla, as I pretend you rhyme with pillow. She won't. As I was saying, beside your bed, old Father Christmas, afraid that any creak or hiss must. How's that? Out! Wake you up, still twinkling, fill up your stocking. I've an inkling that it belongs, in fact, to Pater, but never mind. At 12 or later, he will arrive and hope once more that he has chosen from his store. I did it. The things you want. You're 9:30. She's not a clock. But I still hope you'll drop a line for some years yet and won't forget old Father Christmas and his pet, the North Polar bear and polar cubs as fat as little butter tubs, and snowboys and elves, in fact the whole of my household up near the pole. Upon my list made in December, your number is, if you remember, 56,785. It can't be wondered. Weak! That I am so busy when you think that you are nearly 10 and that in time my list has grown by quite 10,000 girls alone, even when I've subtracted all the houses where I no longer call. You are all will wonder what's in the news, if all has gone well, and if not, who's to blame, and whether Polar Bear has into mark good, bad, or fair for his behavior since last winter. Well, first he trod upon a splinter. Just rhyming nonsense. It was a nail, rusty too, and went on crunches in November, and then one cold day in December he burnt his nose and singed his paws upon the kitchen grate because, without the help of tongs, he cried to roast hot chestnuts. Wow, he cried, I never did, and used a pound of butter best to cure the burns. He would not rest. I was not given a chance. But on the 23rd he went and climbed up on the roof. He meant to clear the snow away, choked his chimney up. Of course he poked his legs right through the tiles and snow. In tons fell upon his bed below. He has broken saucers, cups, and plates, and eaten lots of chocolates. He's dropped like barges on his toes, and trodden tin soldiers flat in rows. You need not believe all of this. You need. He's overwound engines and broken springs and mixed up different children things. He's thumbed new books and burst balloons and scribbled lots of smudgy runes on my best paper and wiped his feet on scarves and hankies folded neat. And yet he has been on the whole a very kind and willing soul. He's fetched and carried, counted, packed, and for a week he's never slacked. Here, here. I wish you wouldn't scribble on my nice rhyme. He's climbed the cellar stairs at least 5,000 times, the dear old beast. Poscu sends love and Velkotuka. They are still with me and they don't look a year older, but that's just their bit, more wise and have more wit. The goblins, you'll be glad to hear, have not been seen at all this year, not near the pole, but I am told they're moving south and getting bold and coming back to many lands and making with their wicked hands new mines and caves, but do not fear, they'll hide away when I appear. Christmas Day. Now Christmas Day has come round again, and poor North Bear has got bad pain. They say he swallowed a couple of pounds of nuts without cracking the shell. It sounds a polarish sort of things to do, but that isn't all between me and you. He's eaten a ton of various goods and recklessly mixed all his favorite foods, honey with ham and turkey with treacle and pickles with milk. I think in a week'll be need to put the old bear on his feet, and I mustn't forget his particular treat, plum pudding with sausages and Turkish delight, covered with cream and devoured in a bite. And after this dish he stood all on his head. It's a wonder the poor fellow's not dead. Absolute rot. I have not got a pain in my pot. Rude fellow. I do not eat turkey or meat. I stick to the sweet. which is why, as all know, I am so sweet myself, thy thinuous elf. Goodbye. He means fatuous. No, I don't. You're not fat, but thin and silly. You know my friends too well to think, though they're rather brewed with ink, that there are really quarrels here. We've had a very jolly year, except for Polar Bear's rusty nail, but now this rhyme must catch the mail. A special messenger must go, in spite of thickly falling snow, or else this won't get down to you on Christmas Day. It's 2:30. We've got a ton of crackers still to pull and glasses still to fill. Of love to you on this Noel, and till the next one, fare you well. Father Christmas, Polar Bear, Ilbereth, Paxu, and Valkotuka. Oh my gosh, that was so sweet. I love that. I love it. This is so great, and I think I'm not doing it justice because like I should have rehearsed this more, but it's a whole rhyme and it's got all of the different characters. So there's Polar Bear, Father Christmas, Ilbereth, and like they're just kind of fighting in the margins. So it's like here's the thing that Father Christmas wrote, and then the interjections like from Ilbereth, and he's all done it in the different. Oh, come on, focus. He's done it in the different handwriting, and then there's like Polar Bear's thing there, and then he's like weak, and it's really funny. It would be fun to do this with several different people, so I could do the voices better. But here's some more of the illustrations. There's Holly. I know that holly is a big in sort of the like Celtic like pagan tradition. It is a magical wood, and it is if you are like around the time of winter solstice and stuff, there's the story of the holly and the oak king, and it's kind of a metaphor for the changing season and like natural fertility and the life cycles too. I can't remember much of it off the top of my head, but it's definitely something I should study more. And there's the goblins down there. I love how there's this ongoing goblin like fight. Like this is just straight up like a war. And then we have one of the elves with an umbrella. And then here's the end with the nephew bears and the polar bear too. And everyone, Father Christmas, Polar Bear, Ilbereth, and Paxu, and Valkotuka. There we go. And oh my goodness, we're almost to the end. That's cool. I am so glad you guys are joining me, and thank you for coming. All right. Cliff House, North Pole, December 24th, 1939. My dear Priscilla, I am glad you managed to send me 2 letters, although you have been rather busy working. I hope your bingo family will have a jolly Christmas and behave themselves. Tell Billy, is not that his father's name? Not to be so cross. They are not to quarrel over the crackers I am sending. I am very busy, and things are very difficult this year, owing to the horrible war. Many of my messengers have never come back. I haven't been able to do you a very nice picture this year. It is supposed to show me carrying things down our new path to the sleigh sheds. Paxi was in front with a torch looking most frightfully pleased with himself as usual. There is just a glimpse, quite enough, of Polar Bear strolling along behind. He is of course carrying nothing. There have been no adventures here, and nothing funny has happened, and that is because Polar Bear has done hardly anything to help, as he calls it, this year. Rot! I do not think he has been lazier than usual, but he has not been at all well. He ate some fish that disagreed with him last November and was afraid he might have to go to the hospital in Greenland. But after living only in warm water for a fortnight, he suddenly threw the glass and jug out the window and decided to get better. He drew the trees in the picture, and I am afraid they are not very good. Best part of it. They look more like umbrellas. Still, he sends his love to all of you and your bears. Why don't you have polar cubs instead of bingos and koalos? He said. Why not? Give my love to Christopher and Michael and John when you next write. Love from Father Christmas. And there is that's a really pretty illustration. And Polar Bear getting in the mix there. And again, it is like I think it's kind of bittersweet reading as you realize like the kids are getting older, and like the last thing I think they said had been like 13 years since they wrote the first like letter, and I'm like, wow, just thinking what a great monument to like how your kids have grown up and stuff like that. I think this is so magical, and I really love it. And yeah, it is really sad. It's 1939, and here's World War II starting, and it must have been so like so crushing after like what Tolkien experienced in World War I to have to do that again. Yeah, is that the year on the 1939 on the top high spot? Yeah, so they do like put the let me show you because I think you just came here. They put all the years on the top of the letters, and usually most of them have like the scripts on here. Yeah, and there's 1929, 1930 there. They have like the pictures and stuff, and it's just such a beautiful book. I really really love this, and so here we go. Oh, this looks like a polar bear one. December 23rd, 1940. Dear Priscilla, glad you find you are back. Message came on Saturday that your house was empty. Was afraid you had gone without leaving any address. Are having very difficult time this year, but are doing by our best. Thank you for explaining about your room. Father Christmas sends his love. Please excuse blot. Rather busy. Yours, Polar Bear. I love it. How about there's like writing in the margins of like Father Christmas and stuff, like, and Polar Bear has like really bad grammar and stuff. I really like that he made every character have like an own unique voice, and it does kind of go, it's like I feel like Polar Bear is very much like dwarves in his story, kind of like Gimli and stuff. And then you have Ilbereth, which is very much like Elvin. He's got like the kind of haughtiness of some of the elves, like what is it? Oh, what is that guy? Like, I can't remember the name. The guy that married Melian. Oh, I can't remember his name. You guys know who I'm talking about. Anyway, hello, Eraserhead. Nice to see you. Okay, 1940. Cliff House near the North Pole, Christmas Eve, 1940. My dearest Priscilla, just a short letter to wish you a very happy Christmas. Please give my love to Christopher. We are having a rather difficult time this year. This horrible war is reducing all our stocks, and in so many countries, children are living far from their homes. Polar Bear has had a very busy time trying to get our addresses corrected. I am glad you are still at home. I wonder what you will think of my picture. Penguins don't live at the North Pole, you will say. I know they don't, but we have got some all the same. What you would call evacuees, I believe. Not a very nice word, except that they did not come here to escape the war, but to find it. They'd heard such stories of the happenings up in the north, including a quite untrue story that Polar Bear and all the polar cubs had been blown up and that I had been captured by goblins, that they swam all the way here to see if they could help me. Nearly 50 arrived. The picture of Polar Bear dancing with their chiefs. They amuse us enormously. They don't really help much, but are always playing funny dancing games and trying to imitate the walk of Polar Bear and the cubs. Very much yours, old friend, Father Christmas. Oh man, this Goblin war is getting real. Oh, that's cool. That's funny. All right, 1941. Oh, we're getting to the end. Cliff House, near stump of North Pole, December 23rd, 1941. My dearest Priscilla, I am so glad that I did not forget to write me again this year. The number of children who keep up with me seems to be getting smaller. I suspect it is because of this horrible war, and that when it as busy as ever. But at present, so many terrible people, or so terribly many people, have lost their homes or have left them. Half the world seems in the wrong place. And even up here, we have been having troubles. I don't mean only with my stores. Of course, they're getting low. They were already last year, and I have not been able to fill them up, so that I have now to send what I can instead of what is asked for. But worse than that has happened. I expect you remember that some years ago we had trouble with the goblins. We thought that we had settled it. Well, it broke out again this autumn, worse than it has been for centuries. We have had several battles, and for a while my house was besieged. In November, it began to look likely that it would be captured, and all of my goods and that Christmas stockings would all remain empty all over the world. Would not that have been a calamity? It has not happened, and it is largely due to the efforts of Polar Bear. NB, that's me. But it was not until the beginning of this month that I was able to send out any messengers. I expect the goblins thought that with so much war going on, this was a fine chance to recapture the north. They must have been preparing for some years. They have made a huge new tunnel which has an outlet many miles away. It was early in October that they suddenly came out in thousands. Polar says that there were at least 1,000,000, but that is his favorite big number. There were at least 100,000,000. Anyway, he was fast asleep at the time, and I was rather drowsy myself. The weather was rather warm for the time of year, and Christmas seemed far away. There were only one or two elves about the place, and of course Paxu and Valkotuka, also fast asleep. The penguins had all gone away in the spring. Luckily, goblins cannot help yelling and beating on drums when they mean to fight, so we all woke up in time and got the gates and doors barred and the windows shuttered. Polar Bear got on the roof and fired rockets into the goblin house as they poured up the long reindeer drive, but they did not stop them for long. We were soon surrounded. I have not time to tell you all the story. I had to blow 3 blasts on the great horned windbeam. It hangs over the fireplace in the hall, and if I have not told you about it before, it is because I have not had to blow it for over 400 years. Its sound carries as far north as the wind blows. And all the same, it was 3 whole days before help came. Snow boys, polar bears, and hundreds and thousands of elves. They came up behind the goblins, and Polar Bear, really awake this time, rushed out with blazing branch of the fire in each paw. He must have killed dozens of goblins. He says 1,000,000. But there was a big battle down in the plain near the North Pole in November, in which the goblins brought hundreds of new companies out of their tunnels. We were driven back in the cliff, and it was not until Polar Bear and a party of his younger relatives crept out by night and blew up the entrance to the new tunnels with nearly 100 pounds of gunpowder that we got better of them, for the present. But bang went all the stuff for making fireworks and crackers, the cracking part, for some years. The North Pole cracked and fell over for the second time, and we have not yet had time to mend it. Polar Bear is rather a hero. I hope he doesn't think so himself. I do. But of course he is a very magical animal, really. And the goblins can't do much to him when he is awake and angry. I have seen their arrows bouncing off him and breaking. Well, that will give you some idea of events, and you will understand why I have not had time to draw a picture this year. Rather a pity, because there have been such exciting things to draw, and why I have not been able to collect the usual things for you, or even the very few that you asked for. I am told that nearly all of the Alison Utley books have been burnt, and I could not find one of Moldy Warp. I must try and get one for next time. I am sending you a few other books, which I hope you will like. There is not a great deal else, but I will send you very much love. I'd like to hear about your bear Bingo, but I really think he is too old and important to hang up stockings. But Polar Bear seems to feel that any kind of bear is a relation, and so he says to me, "Leave it to me, old man." That I am afraid is what he often calls me. I will pack a perfectly beautiful selection for his Holiness. Yes, Holiness. So I shall try to bring the beautiful selection along. What it is, I don't know. Very much love from your old friend, Father Christmas and Polar Bear. Yeah, this one doesn't have very many illustrations. It is sad just realizing, okay, World War II has started in earnest. It's really tough. The kids are growing up. Like, they're not writing letters to Father Christmas, and it's just like Priscilla. Ugh. But we have another great illustration. He never stopped drawing. And it is interesting that, he's making the story and kind of mirror like current events. I like the tree too. It's kind of like the um Nimla, the tree, like illustration, and then the Gondor flag. Yeah, I'm remembering this. There's so much between like the Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings. It's like I hate when I read these big books because like by the time I finish it, it's like, wow, I need to reread this already. Yes, single. Yes, single. Yes. Thank you, Eraserhead. That was single and million, of course. Oh my goodness, we're almost done. No. Okay, 1942. My dear Priscilla, Polar Bear tells me that he cannot find my letter from you among this year's piles. I hope he has not lost any. He is so untidy. Still, I expect you have been very busy this autumn at your new school. I've had to guess what you would like. I think I know fairly well, and luckily we are still pretty well off for books and things of that sort. But really, I have never seen my stock so low or my cellar so full of empty places, as Polar Bear says. I am hoping that I shall be able to replenish them before long, though there is so much waste and smashing going on that it makes me rather sad and anxious too. Deliveries are more difficult than ever this year with damaged houses and houseless people and all the dreadful events going on in your countries. Of course, it is just as peaceful and merry in my land as it ever was. We had our snows early this year, and then nice crisp frosty nights to keep it white and firm, and bright starry days. No sun just now, of course. I am giving a big party tomorrow night, as I ever did. Polar cubs, Pascu and Valkotuka, of course, among them, and snowboys and elves. We are having the tree indoors this year, in the hall at the foot of the great staircase, and I hope Polar Bear does not fall down the stairs and crash into it after all decorated and lit up. I hope you will not mind my bringing this little letter along with your things tonight. I am short of messengers. Some are having great trouble in finding people and have been away for days. Just now I caught Polar Bear in my pantry, and I'm sure he's being in the cupboard. I do not know why. He has wrapped up a mysterious small parcel which he wants me to bring to you. Well, not exactly to you, he said. She's got a bear too, as you ought to remember. Well, my dear, here it is very much love from Father Christmas once more, and good wishes for 1943. And the asterisk on this one said, no battles at all this year. Quiet is quiet. I think the goblins were really crushed this time. Windbeam is hanging over the mantelpiece and is quite dusty again, I am glad to say. But Polar Bear has spent lots of time this year making fresh gunpowder, just in case of trouble. He said, wouldn't that grubby little Billy like being here? I don't know what he is talking about, unless it was about your bear. Does he eat gunpowder? You'll find out about the pantry. Ha ha! I know you won't like. Don't let that Billy Bear eat it all. Love from Polar Bear. Message to Billy Bear from Polar Bear. Sorry I could not send you a really good bomb. All our powder has gone up in a big bang. You would have seen what a really good explosion looks like if you'd been there. Oh my God. Holy crap, they're making bombs in the basement. Oh my god, these bears are out of control. Don't tell the ATF. Man, check out the letters on this. It's pretty. I mean, I imagine at this point in time that, like, maybe he was busy with other stuff that he didn't do the illustrations like he used to, and life must have been really, really difficult. It's really hard to imagine, like, what it must have been like, especially now, and just the sort of shortages they had, the air raids, that kind of stuff, and I know I have one of my cousin's grandma was actually grew up in Germany during World War II, and she had some really interesting stories. And what was interesting, and it kind of reminds me of Tolkien, is that, like, despite the horribleness of everything that happened to her, like, her stories were very, like, hopeful and very pragmatic. It's like one of the greatest things she ever told me was, like, how she had learned to knit on bicycle spokes as knitting needles, and she's a very prolific crafter. She made a lot of quilts. She loved to knit and everything, and she she had, like, made socks for the first time using bicycle spokes as knitting needles. And if you've ever knitted, it's like, the size of the needles kind of determines the gauge of it. So she said that they were so stiff that they would stand up by themselves, and I just thought that was so funny. But yeah, Grandma Ingalls up in Canada, Merry Christmas to you. You'll probably never hear this, but we do love you. And yeah, like, thanks for being my, like grandma through association. I don't know. She's my grandma, like my cousin's grandma. She's awesome. And unfortunately, all my grandparents are dead. I miss them a lot. But it's always nice to remember our family and the good times we had for them during Christmas. 1943. My dearest Priscilla, a very happy Christmas. I suppose you will be hanging up your stocking just once more. I hope so, for I have still a few little things for you. After this, I shall have to say goodbye, more or less. I mean, I shall not forget you. We always keep the old numbers of our old friends and their letters, and later on we hope to come back when they are grown up and have houses of their own and children. My messengers tell me that people call it grim this year. I think they mean miserable, and so it is, I fear, in many places where I was especially fond of going, but I am very glad to hear that you are still not really miserable. Don't be. I am still very much alive, and I shall come back again soon, as merry as ever. There has been no damage in my country, and though my stocks are running rather low, I hope soon to put this right. Polar Bear, too tired to write himself, so he says, I am, really. Sends a special message to you. Love and a hug. He says, do ask if she still has a bear called Silly Bear or something like that, or is he worn out? Give my love to the others, John and Michael and Christopher, and of course all of your pets that you used to tell me about. Polar Bear and all the cubs are very well. They will have been very good this year and have hardly had time to get into any mischief. I hope you will find most of the things that you wanted, and I am very sorry I have no cat's tongues left. But I have sent nearly all of the books you asked for. I hope your stocking will seem full. Very much love from your old friend, Father Christmas. God, that's hard reading that. Here's the illustration. I think that's so, so pretty. Wow. I love that. And man, it is so sad reading that, because you're like, she must have been probably like older teenager by this time, and just just like knowing this is the last letter. It's like, wow, that's really hard. And I don't know, like to me, like, I don't ever believe remember like being really into Santa and like believing in Santa, but it's like I think almost the belief in Santa is like a metaphor for growing up, and it's so beautiful to read the stories here and seeing how people like grow up and how they've moved on and the things that were happening in their life and how Tolkien really just kept connecting with his kids and he left this great legacy for us. And it is really beautiful, and I find it very inspiring and positive, especially in this day and age when so much we do is like electronic media, and so much of the media that we have and we create and we share with people is stuff that is not physical. I think it's very important to create physical goods, and I know I'm a big crafter, and I'm looking forward to doing stuff like this for people that I love. I know I have done that with like some of my friends and family before. My brother had a pen pal in Japan, and we used to get kicked. Like I used to write letters that were telling about my garden, and I would always like illustrate them with little drawings and stuff. And I have sent my friends letters sometimes like that too. And yeah, I really look forward to hopefully doing this for my own family too, and hoping that like they can have like something to like remember like their childhood, and it can bring them joy when they look back on it. Like it's really interesting. I'm one of the few people in my family that's been like or at least on my mom's side of the family where I have been interested in sort of like preserving the things that we found in our house, because like my family is pretty like I wouldn't say like really super fresh off the boat, but like mom was the first generation, I think, that was born in the US. And the house that she grew up in and where my grandma lived was just full of old stuff that they had from like Italy and stuff like that. And it's really interesting finding like postcards and stuff and having like a written record kind of is like the only way you can really like get to know people sometimes. And I think it's interesting the way that they wrote and the things that they wrote about, and like trying to figure out what it says and stuff. And yeah, I I just get a kick out of it. So I think we're at the end of this now, and I would like to thank everyone for joining me today. Please like and leave a comment if you would like, and share this if you enjoyed it. And I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. And I just want to say thank you for joining me. And if you're celebrating the solstice, have a wonderful solstice. And, it's the darkest night of the year. And just remember that, you can't have the darkest, like, for all the dark that there is, there's a light to balance it out. And I know things are like just the last few years have been really difficult for people. And I know it has for me. And I am very grateful for all of the good things that have happened this year. And I just wanted to thank all of my supporters out there, and thank my family and friends, and everyone that's made this year wonderful. You're awesome. And have a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And I love you all, and have a wonderful night.